after the first openly transgender woman was elected to Congress, Republicans needed an issue that did not exist. They needed to manufacture one per usual. Sarah McBride, the first ever transgender woman to be elected to Congress, has won her election in Delaware. And in response to her victory, Nancy Mace, an individual who is either possessed by a demon or at least just looks to be possessed by a demon, threw a temper tantrum and has now decided to pass legislation to ban transgender women from using cisgendered women's bathrooms in the Capitol and nationwide. Now, do I have a problem with women saying, hey, we want spaces for us and just for us, please? No, I don't have a problem with that at all. The problem is MAGA and Nancy Mace are trying to portray the left as being deranged, weird, crazy, when in reality, they're the weird ones. They're the crazy ones. Sarah McBride herself, in response to this entire insane debacle, has said, look, I'll follow the rules. I'll follow the law. Like I will not use these bathrooms.
Earlier today, the first openly transgender woman elected to Congress sat down with me and discussed why she is complying with this controversial measure.
I would like my grace to contrast with the grandstanding that we're seeing right now. I would like my approach of respecting everyone to contrast with the disrespect that we are seeing right now. I'd like people to see my competence in governing contrast with their chaos.
Do you follow this rule? Do you adhere to it?
I have already said that I will not use multi-stall women's restrooms in the Capitol. But again, that is my choice here. I always knew that there would be an effort to politicize my use of a restroom. Yeah. And if anyone had thought to ask me about what I was planning on doing, I would have been happy to tell them.
See, this isn't about protecting women. It's not about common sense. It's about selective, calculated, and strategic outrage. I want you to keep in mind, Sarah McBride did not stage an insurrection. Sarah McBride did not lie about FEMA funding and aid during a national disaster. Sarah McBride's political party is not infamous for blocking legislation toward people in need. Sarah McBride did not accuse the seated president of trying to kill her. But Sarah McBride did have the audacity to win an election while being trans, and now MAGA has found a new issue, a cultural issue. Notice, this is how they gain traction and support amongst the country. Not on policy, not on taking care of the American people, but by winning meaningless cultural battles that for the most part affect no one. That's what this is about. Now, I will say this. I would highly advise people on the left to the goal here is not to get mad at the legislation. I don't have a problem with women saying, hey, we would like to have our own space from trans women. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not battling on that. What I'm battling is the perception that MAGA wants to create. They want to create this idea of being the party of common sense, as Nancy Mace says, common sense, the party of common sense. This is the same party who ran an insurrectionist. This is the same party that routinely lies about legislation, disasters, attacks, political, anything you can think of, foreign policy. This is a party that runs on lies. This is a party that runs on misinformation. This is a party that runs on telling women what they can or can't do with their bodies because of a book written 2,000 years ago. So when this party pretends and postures itself to be a party of common sense, I want you to not forget exactly what this party truly represents. Truly. Now, Nancy Mace goes on to really shed light into what this is really about. She begins to talk about how Sarah McBride is not her equal and is actually a threat to her safety.
Broken mini glass ceilings. As you said, I was the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I'm the first Republican woman ever elected to Congress from the great state of South Carolina. It is offensive that a man in a skirt thinks that he's my equal.
You've said that the timing is no coincidence here. Are you saying that Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride is a threat to you or women?
Absolutely. Any man who wants to force his junk into the bathroom stall next to me or in a dressing room watching me, that is an assault on women.
And we again know this isn't true because Sarah McBride is 100% willing to cooperate with the law and has no intention in impeding in cis women's spaces. But I want you to realize this is not about women's safety. I want you to keep in mind Matt Gaetz has trafficking investigations going on. They're investigating this guy for trafficking. Okay? Trump and RFK have their own situations as well. I'm not accusing any of these guys of anything. I'm not saying they're guilty of anything. But here's Nancy Mace's response as someone who questioned her and pressed her for her not even hypocrisy, but blatant just like strategic, cunning, like psychopathy.
Common sense Republican Party.
Congresswoman, I obviously want to note that there are no reports of Congresswoman-elect Sarah McBride assaulting anybody. You're saying you're a champion for women's rights. New York Mag posted this argument, though. Quote, Nancy Mace is so threatened by transgender lawmaker Sarah McBride that she's having her blocked from bathrooms in the Capitol. Yet Mace endorsed Trump cabinet picks Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, and RFK Jr., who have been accused of sexual misconduct. What's your reaction to that argument?
Well, the mainstream media wants to be and play judge, jury, and executioner on individuals that haven't been charged with a crime, let alone indicted and found guilty in a court of law. So, civil liberties are a thing in this country. Women's rights are a thing in this country. I do support Trump's nominees, and I'm someone this is just about common sense.
I want all of us to walk away from this situation understanding that this is not about women's safety. This is not about American safety, okay? This is a party who refuses to pass legislation that allows kids to have free lunch in school. This is a party that thinks that the Bible gets to dictate what women can or can't do with their bodies. And mind you, the Bible also speaks about give up all your belongings and follow me. The Bible talks about giving to the poor. For what you have done for the least among you, you have done unto me. Jesus goes on and on about compassion, altruism, care for those who have nothing. This is a party that runs an entire campaign on helping no one and hurting everyone. You know this is true. For those of you who are conservative watching, you know. Your party does not have a single piece of legislation meant to pass to help anybody but tax cuts for the rich. That's literally it. You have nothing to do in terms of protecting women from religious zealots invading their privacy and their family's privacy. You have no legislation to pass for kids who need lunch in school. You have no legislation to pass for people who need health care. You have concepts of a plan. Your entire party represents nothing but destruction. You just allowed a man who believes that the FDA is trying to conspire against sunlight to have control over people's food and health in this country. This is not the party of common sense. This is the party of insanity. Nancy Mace is a deluded hag-raven hag who has lost her mind. She looks like she's a man. I'm not holding back any more punches against these people. Nancy Mace looks like she's a man. With all the finger pointing she's got going on, they need to investigate her. It's the truth. She looks like she could be a dude too. She looks like she could be a man. Because when Kamala Harris was getting shat on basically for being a woman and being called the Haktua girl and being accused of sleeping her way to the top and every form of misogynistic insult formed against her by these demons summoned by the devil, Trump, his MAGA henchman that he summoned, Nancy Mace joined in and started calling her Kamala and all this bullshit. When you saw a woman who's more qualified and accomplished than you being shat on for simply having the audacity to be a woman, a black woman running for office, you joined in. You joined in. And now you want to pretend to be a soldier for women? Get the fuck out of here. At the end of the day, did Republicans score a victory with this legislation? Of course. At the end of the day, obviously, I think most people agree that cis women should be able to have their own space separate from men and trans women. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say, oh, you know what, women, you deserve to have your own space. And if you're adamant about wanting to have your own space, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and bring up statistics and whatever. Fine. However, What I'm not going to do is pretend like this didn't happen strictly because of the election of Sarah McBride. Sarah McBride is not crazy. She's not deranged. She hasn't committed crimes as far as we know. She's not adamant about breaking this rule. She hasn't done anything of the sort and actually promises to stay out of women's spaces. She's like, look, I'll fine, like, cool, like, I'll cooperate. This is a non-issue. It just is. None of this is actually real. We literally just saw Donald Trump nominate a fucking TV show host to be the Secretary of Defense, a Russian spy to be the Director of National Intelligence, and we're supposed to be losing sleep over Sarah McBride having the audacity to breathe oxygen. No, I'm not expending mental energy toward this. Nice try, but no. So what I'll say to liberals who want to ask, how do we properly combat this? What do we say to this? Because MAGA is using the veneer of common sense to hide the total, like, satanic force that they are. How do you combat these soldiers of Satan? I'll tell you what to do. Point out what they're doing. Point it out. Stop sitting there trying to, but you gotta understand, the statistics show, yeah. Stop. Just stop. The average American is not adamant about trans women being in women's bathrooms. They don't want it, and a lot of them they either don't care, they just don't want it at all. There's no need for us to die on such a statistically irrelevant hill. What we should be doing is talking about legislation they haven't passed, things they haven't done. You want to claim to be a warrior for women? Okay, let's talk about the people you've endorsed. Let's talk about the legislation you refuse to pass. Let's talk about the fact that your party literally thinks it's their right to interfere into the affairs of women and their families. Let's talk about that. Let's have a conversation about the fact that you guys claim to be the party of common sense, but have been adamant about electing an individual who has betrayed every form of sense, much less the common sense itself. You have been adamant about just pushing him all the way back up to power once again. How can you put an insurrectionist at the helm of your movement and lecture this nation about common sense? It's impossible. You can't do it. Nice try, but we see what you're trying to do. Nancy Mace is weird. She looks like a witch. She looks weird. She is weird. She looks like a demon. And I don't care what anybody says. You shouldn't be using this is misogynistic. I don't care. I don't care. Let's just call these people what they are. Witches, hag ravens, demons, henchmen, Trump sexuals, weird. That's what they are, G. Nancy Mace is an odd character. How can you support Donald Trump and then claim to be the party of common sense? Stop letting them win on this. Just stop. Stop. Point out all the shit Republicans don't support. This has been their attempt at trying to look normal after trying to pass a cacophony of kooks into office to run our country. Trying to put Tulsi Gabbard in charge of our intelligence. Matt Gaetz in charge of the law. Pete, whatever his last name, in charge of the Department of Defense? Excuse me? This is what they're trying to do, is distract from what Trump just tried to do. Put in a literal cabal of criminals and spies into our government. That's what this is all about. Nancy Mace is an absolute weirdo. She's weird, she's disgusting. If she walks too close to you, you should use pepper spray to keep her at a distance. Don't let her get too close, you might catch something. Stop dying on hills we shouldn't die on. This is strategic. They want you to die on the hill of trans women should be in women's bathrooms so they can score a point that you just can't beat them on. Instead of trying to fight a lopsided battle specifically engineered for your loss, simply sidestep the bullet. I see what you're trying to put. I see how you're trying to get me, but I'm not falling for that. Oh no, nice try. Now let's confront the issue of what's really going on here. Let's confront that. That's what we should be doing in left-wing media. So I want people to point out how absolutely ridiculous this is. These are people who refuse to pass legislation in which the president could not be given the powers of a king or be above the law, but they believe themselves to be the party of common sense. Stop letting them get away with this, liberals. Just stop. Like, stop letting them pretend to be normal people. Stop letting them they sat there for 10 years and called Democrats demons and bloodsuckers and interdimensional satanic. Fine, you are. No, you are. How about that? So that's the video for today. Well, I got another one about Theo Vaughn coming up next. Stay tuned for that one. He's an idiot. Yeah. So MAGA attempts to create problems where they don't exist and refuse to solve problems where they do exist. Typical. Absolutely typical. And I want us to come away with a slogan. MAGA solves no problems and creates more. That's exactly, I don't know, I'm going to come up with a better slogan, but this is constant for them. They don't solve anything and they just make shit up. Like, real issues they don't touch, and they find shit that isn't real and just make it real. I'm gonna have to find a slogan, but this is common. This is what they do. We need to find a way to get the average American to be able to see this shit when it's happening, because the average American can't see it. They don't get it. They don't know that Nancy Mace is being performative right now. We need to find a slogan or something to alert the American people to the fact that all of this is performative bullshit. So that would be my 2 cents to anyone trying to figure out how to combat this buffoonery. It is all performative. It is all dishonest. It is all a lie. Nancy Mace, from whatever cave she crawled out of and snapped her spine into place, because she does not look like an actual normal human being, and I will continue to disrespect and humiliate and violate all of these people as much as possible, because that's exactly what they've done to acquire all the power that they have. So it is what it is. If you want to know how to combat these demons, keep a cross on hand, holy water within reaching distance, and never give in to any of these lies and make-believe stories and make-up problems they profess to be trying to solve in front of the American people.